fuzzed out riffage, huge anthemic choruses, the melding of Weezer, Smashing Pumpkins, and the Big Four of thrash, according to the label's website, as well as the Wild Hearts, Helmet, Therapy with a question mark, and the Melvins. I'm throwing those ones in myself, as well as some System of a Down, Rollins Band, Pantera, and of course the Big Four. I suppose that already makes sense, doesn't it? Megadeth and stuff like that. We've already said that. There's a lot going on here. Puppy have finally released their debut album, The Goat. Raining in England, Hampshire, who would have thought it? Okay, so Puppy with their debut album, The Goat. I've had a number of people requesting me to review this album. This is one of those ones I sadly missed. I think this came out, when was it? January the 25th via Spinefarm Records. It's a band that's been getting quite a bit of hype around them. Hailing not only from my fair isle of England, Hampshire, but from the very capital itself, Londinium. God bless you. This is the band's debut album, but they've built up quite a bit of a buzz over the last couple of years. I think they've had 2 EPs. First one being Puppy itself, the self-titled EP, then Vol 2. I think Puppy came out in 2015, Vol 2 came out in 2017. They've also played the Glastonbury Festival, and apparently one of their songs has appeared on Guitar Hero. Who'd have thought? And according to the band's label, Spinefarm Records, The Goat features 12 tracks that successfully combine the left-field melodic turns of Weezer, the hazy fuzz of Smashing Pumpkins, and the straight-to-the-bone sonics of the Big Four of thrash. The end result being a signature sound that hides a bloody occultesque heart beneath its festival-ready choruses. A lot to live up to then. And Goat themselves are Jock Norton on vocals and guitar, Billy Howard on drums, and Will Michael on bass. Don't know why I said bass like that. Supposedly comedic, it wasn't. Without further fudge, let's review. First song, Black Hole. Nice riff sets things off here, and there's a touch of Helmet. What? The band. To the sound, and the opening lyrics of the album go thusly. Time slows and fills me with feeling, a blood moon that the sun is concealing. I know what you mean on days like this. And each night when my thoughts are congealing, it's here again. The guitars sound huge, a very pleasing chorus, and there's some really nice vocal harmonies thrown in there as well. Next up we have Vengeance. Nice bit of feedback sets things off before the drums kick in, and then a riff that's not too dissimilar to Therapy. The riff is like having therapy. The band. Are we going to do this for every fucking reference? Sorry. There's also a touch of the Wild Hearts to the chorus. Don't. You and your broken heart. Let it pour and fix, so simple at the start. You curse my blackened soul. For the moment that my mind just lost control, for this vengeance that you leave will take its toll. The aforementioned likening to the Big Four is very prevalent on the bridge section on this song. It has to be said that I'm really enjoying a lot of the riffs on this album so far. Next up we have Poor Me, and I think this is probably my favourite song on the album. Really enjoyed the chorus on this one, huge. The main riff in this one has a real Alice in Chains vibe mixed with Megadeth. And when the drums kick in, we also get a sense of Houdini-era Melvins as well. And once again, we get an incredibly infectious chorus. And if anybody wants to tell me different, I've been waiting my whole life to sign my throne. If anybody wants to tell me different, then bring this curtain's crown, 'cause everything is bringing me down. Fuzzed out riffage bliss. There's a real nice tasty solo and some nice bass in there as well. Next up we have Just Like You. To me this one had a strong Wait era Rollins Band kind of style to it. I found that being looked at right now, I think maybe it was the guitar tone that reminded me of the Rollins. Of course, Chris Haskett, great guitarist. And So I Burn is up next. This one had an almost 80s new wave of British heavy metal vibe to it, with a tinge of Therapy again. Next up we get Entombed, and I believe this is a reworking of a song that appeared on their Vol 2 EP. And musically I felt that this one had a hint of debut era System of a Down to it, dare I say? Because every night a shadow remains and stalks me through the halls of my brain. I hide, but then it finds me again, rattling chains till it drives me insane. All is lost, Entombed. Nice solo in this one as well. I haven't mentioned much about Jock Norton's voice at this point, but it's I can't quite place the vocals, but it's got a kind of alternative rock styling to it, kind of a quite high pitched in places, certainly not a metal voice, but a pleasing one. It works well. It certainly fits the music nicely, very well done. Nice, good work, Jock. Next up we get World Stands Still. Don't know why I staggered it like that. After a drum and bass intro, that being traditional drums and bass, that being people actually playing the instrument drums and bass, though not necessarily in that order, although to be fair, most of the time in the recording process the drums are recorded first, so it probably was drums then bass. Before we get another tasty riff that has more than a hint of Sabbath, Black Sabbath. Probably should have mentioned them earlier on as well, because there is, there's a few riffs that have a touch of Sabbath. I mean, let's be honest, all of the Alice in Chains stuff is inspired by Ome. Scrambling hands reaching out to midnight. Don't know why I said it like that. A face that watches a war. A trick of the sand, check the dimmer twilight as darkness starts to fall. It's getting a bit darker, I suppose. Definite Weezer vibe on this one, especially the solo. Next up we have Bathe in Blood. Wasn't it that Bathory bitch who bathed in blood? Heaviest song so far, this one, or at least the intro is, with some cool use of alternate picking before morphing into a more grunge-esque style song with more than a hint of the Pixies. These guys with their influences. Next up we have Nightwalker. This is another one that has a very strong Pixies vibe to it. Very dreamy vibe to this one. Nightwalker, take my hand, but leave me there to your cold and twisted mind. Sleep talker. That can be annoying. The dreams of you. I see veins my blood should be running through. There's also a female vocalist in this one contributing vocals, but I'm not sure who it is. Sorry. Next up we have I Feel an Evil. And I felt that this one had a hint of PHUQ era Wild Hearts with a touch of Helmet. Really? I enjoyed this song a lot. And there was also a brief section in it that had this guitar harmony part that was very reminiscent of Mastodon, as well as some of those more Weezer-esque style vocal harmonies. Guitar harmonies, vocal harmonies, that's a lot of harmonies. Penultimate song is Handlebars. This one starts out with some very Sepultura-esque discordance before launching into a very therapy vibe riff, Dirty, which gets us to the final song on the album, Demons. This one had a ton of different styles and influences going into it. There were hints of Helmet, Ghost, Priest, Metallica, and we even get a Pantera-esque style breakdown seeing us out of the song and the album. It's not so black and white, because without the darkness, you can never see the light. So yeah, that was the album, and I think I'd have to give this an 8 out of 10. I've seen a lot of reviews for this album that have given this top marks. 10 out of 10, whatever the mark may be. I mean, it doesn't have to be out of 10. I think maybe the problem I had with this album is it's been so hyped up to me, both in the press and by people asking me to review this album, that I was expecting maybe more than actually turned up. And that's not to say that the album's bad at all, because there's a hell of a lot of enjoyable stuff on here. I'm very intrigued to see where this band go. I think this is a band that are gonna go pretty goddamn nuclear. The vocal harmonies are awesome, the choruses are huge and infectious, the guitars, I love the guitar tone on this album right throughout. I absolutely adore the guitar tone, sounds absolutely fantastic. Very enjoyable album. I'm glad that I finally got off my ass and actually reviewed it, and I can see this being one that I return to a lot throughout the year. So what have we next? Well, the next review will either be Dream Theater or Devin Townsend. We've got the new Dream Theater album coming out next week, or by the end of this week actually. Devin Townsend is just about getting ready to drop the first single from his upcoming Empath album, so I'll be doing a review reaction of that. We also have Claypool and the Lennon Delirium. There's a hell of a lot of stuff coming up, and then of course we've got Weezer, we've got Mark Morton, Buck Cherry, In Flames, Children of Bodom. There's a hell of a lot of albums coming out over the next couple of weeks, which is good for me. Gets me off my ass and going again. So yeah, hell of a lot coming up. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. And I think with that, it's time that I head back to the car. God, Jesus Christ. Oh, it's been a long one.